Ah, desert camping. There's really nothing else like it. The wide open spaces, those incredible sunsets, and a sky so packed with stars, it feels like you could just reach out and grab one. But here's the thing, all that beauty comes with a serious challenge. This is an environment of extremes, and being prepared isn't just a good idea, it's everything. So let's dive into how to do it right. First thing you have to wrap your head around is that the desert basically lives a double life. You can have these scorching hot days and then bam, the night comes and it gets so cold it's a genuine shock to the system. So why does that happen? Well, it's because the air is so dry and the skies are so clear, there's nothing to hold on to the heat. The second the sun goes down, all that warmth just radiates right back out into space. This huge temperature swing, that's the central puzzle you've got to solve for a safe trip. So that's the big question, right? It's not just about gritting your teeth and surviving it all. It's about being so dialed in, so prepared that you can actually thrive out there and soak in what is an absolutely incredible experience. And that is exactly what we're going to break down. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get a real handle on the desert's dual nature. Then we'll talk about the must-have gear for the extremes. After that, it's all about how to navigate and set up your camp, what daily life looks like, and, really importantly, how to be a responsible visitor. And we'll wrap it all up with a quick FAQ to hit those common questions. Okay, part one, really understanding this landscape. Because honestly, before you pack a single piece of gear, the most important thing you can bring with you is a deep respect for this environment. This is a place that demands your full attention. And paying attention means knowing who you're sharing the space with. The desert is just teeming with life, and that includes some critters you don't want to get too close to, like venomous snakes and spiders. The rules here are super simple, but absolutely non-negotiable. Always watch where you're putting your feet, give all animals plenty of space, and make sure your tent zips up nice and tight. And please, never leave food or trash out. It's like putting out a giant welcome mat for visitors you really don't want. Which brings us to section 2, gearing up. If the desert is throwing down a challenge, then having the right equipment is your answer. This is where good preparation turns what could be a dangerous trip into a genuinely comfortable and unforgettable adventure. So let's talk about your home away from home, your core shelter system. First up, your tent. It's got to be tough. A 4-season model is a great choice because it's built to stand up to those high winds and blowing sand. Next, your sleeping bag. That's your #1 defense against the nightly chill, so really pay attention to that temperature rating. And finally, a reliable stove that won't give up in the wind is key for that hot meal or coffee that just makes everything better. Now, your personal comfort, this is all about the art of layering. It's not about one magic jacket, it's a whole system. You start with a base layer that wicks moisture. It pulls sweat off your skin to keep you dry. Then you add an insulating layer, maybe a fleece, to trap your body heat when it gets cold. And you top it all off with an outer shell to block the wind and sun. This setup lets you adjust on the fly no matter what the desert throws at you. But listen, out of all the advice, all the gear, nothing, and I mean nothing, is more important than this. 1 gallon of water per person per day. That's the absolute bare minimum. This isn't a suggestion, it's a hard and fast rule for survival out here. Don't eyeball it, measure it out, and pack it. Seriously, your entire trip depends on it. Okay, section 3. You've made it. You've arrived. Now the fun really begins. The first things you do, finding your spot and setting up camp, are going to set the tone for the whole trip. Getting this right from the jump is absolutely crucial for your safety and comfort. So where do you set up? You want a nice, flat, durable surface. But the most important rule is actually what not to do. Never, ever camp in a dry riverbed. It might look like the perfect flat spot, but a storm miles away could send a flash flood roaring down that channel with absolutely no warning. Look for higher ground. Try to find some natural windbreaks, like a cluster of boulders. And, of course, always know the local rules for where you are. And how do you find that perfect spot? Well, when it comes to navigation out here, redundancy is your best friend. Absolutely, bring your GPS or use your phone. They're great. But what happens when the batteries die or you lose signal? That's why you have to carry a physical map and a compass. And even more important, you have to know how to use them. These old school tools are often the lifeline that'll get you back safely. All right, your camp is set. Welcome to section 4, living with the elements. This is all about the daily rhythm, the little habits that keep you safe, comfortable, and feeling good for your whole adventure. During the day, your main job is managing the heat. And this is more than just comfort. It's about avoiding some really serious stuff like heat stroke. The trick is to sip water constantly, way before you even feel thirsty. Wear light-colored, loose clothing that reflects the sun. Protect yourself with hats, sunglasses, and sunscreen. And be smart. When the sun is at its highest, that's your cue to chill out in the shade and rest. You're going to be burning a ton of calories out there, and you have to keep the tank full. The best desert foods are packed with energy, they don't spoil, and they don't weigh you down. We're talking about things like nuts, dried fruits, jerky, energy bars, all that good stuff that give you that steady, slow burn energy you need to keep going. This brings us to a really important topic, Section 5, which is all about our shared responsibility. The desert is just stunning, but it's also a very fragile ecosystem. Our goal should always be to experience it to the fullest while leaving it just as wild and beautiful for the next person. And the whole philosophy behind this is called Leave No Trace. It's a really simple but powerful set of ethics. The whole idea is to make your presence out there barely noticeable. You're a visitor passing through, and you want to leave things just as you found them. And here's what that looks like in the real world. You stick to the trails that are already there to keep the landscape intact. You pack out everything you bring in. And yeah, that includes food scraps. An orange peel or an apple core might seem harmless, but in the desert, it can take years to break down and can mess with the local wildlife. These small actions make a huge difference in protecting this delicate place. Okay, to wrap this all up, let's do a quick fire round of some frequently asked questions. This will really help lock in some of the most important takeaways. First up, probably the biggest gear question we get, what's the best kind of tent for the desert? And it's a great question because showing up with the wrong tent can make for a pretty miserable time. So you want to look for 3 key things. 1, amazing ventilation, lots of mesh to let the air flow on hot nights. 2, a freestanding design. Why? Because you can't always pound stakes into solid rock or loose sand. And 3, a really solid waterproof rainfly. Because, and this surprises people, yes, it absolutely does rain in the desert. And when it does, it can be a real downpour. All right, so you've got the gear, you know the rules. Where you go? The U.S. has some of the most spectacular desert landscapes you'll find anywhere on Earth. So what are a few good places to start dreaming about? Here are just a few to get that imagination going. You've got Joshua Tree in California with its wild-looking trees and giant boulders. There's Big Bend down in Texas with massive canyons and mountains. And Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument in Arizona, which is just this unique slice of the Sonoran Desert. As you can see, each one is a totally different world waiting to be explored. Look, from the water you carry to the spot you pick for your tent, every single decision you make out here matters. The desert demands preparation. It demands respect. But the reward? That feeling of quiet wonder under a sky spilling over with stars, that is something you will never forget. So the only question left is, the desert's waiting. Are you ready?